nuclear power plants are over-engineered with various redundancies for safety. If the outside power to the plant is cut off, which could very well happen as a result of shelling, there are diesel generators backup, and there is extra diesel fuel at the power plant to keep the cooling systems and other operational systems going. But in a fighting scenario, those kind of backup systems could also be affected, and it's not too hard to imagine that we could get to such a disaster scenario.
In a sign of increasing concern about the situation in Zaporizhzhia, the UN has called for international inspectors to be given access to the nuclear power plant after it was shelled at the weekend. The plant, which was built in the Soviet era, is the largest nuclear reactor in Europe. Its 6 pressurized water reactors can produce power for up to 4 million homes. Joining me now is Mark Fitzpatrick. He's a former Deputy Assistant Secretary for Non-Proliferation and former Director of the Non-Proliferation and Disarmament Programme at the International Institute for Strategic Studies. Patrick, thank you so much for joining us on Times Radio.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Happy to speak with you, Hannah.
So the UN has warned of the suicidal, that's their words, in quotation marks, the word suicidal danger of fighting around Europe's biggest nuclear plant after we've just said. Is there real, tangible danger of a radioactive disaster? And if so, what does that actually mean and entail?
Oh, absolutely. There is a danger. These 6 nuclear power plants have, over the course of their production of electricity, generated 1,000 tons of spent nuclear fuel that has been cooling. And if that spent fuel is not continually cooled, if there's a loss of electricity to the pumps and the water cooling them were to evaporate, that would be a major disaster. It would be a huge dirty bomb in effect, worse than the radiation spread that happened after Fukushima in Japan lost power. Worse probably than Chernobyl.
Is that really the case? It would be worse than that. There aren't things now in place that would stop a disaster on that great scale.
Well, of course, there are any number of eventualities, and so I'm describing a worst-case scenario, but it is a real possibility. Nuclear power plants are over-engineered with various redundancies for safety. If the outside power to the plant is cut off, which could very well happen as a result of shelling, there are diesel generators backup, and there is extra diesel fuel at the power plant to keep the cooling systems and other operational systems going. But in a fighting scenario, those kind of backup systems could also be affected, and it's not too hard to imagine that we could get to such a disaster scenario.
The Times is reporting today that Russian weapons being used against Ukraine contain Western electronics. And it says that many of these components are being obtained via clandestine means. So do you think when you hear stories like this, the West needs to be a lot more careful to do more to prevent this kind of thing from happening? Tell us about this.
Okay, so that's another aspect of the Ukraine problem. Yes, I saw the reports that much of Russia's equipment relies on sophisticated chips from the West. And of course, Russia is enjoined from obtaining them legally, so it uses any kind of illicit means it can to buy them. And black market systems around the world, can easily be exploited because of the, chips are small and easily shipped. So I'm sure that the Western intelligence agencies are on the lookout for such illicit shipments, but it's hard to shut down entirely.
So that's obviously another serious worry to add to the many. If we were going to look for sort of something positive, a ceasefire did hold overnight, but this is after a weekend moving away now from Ukraine of explosions in Gaza. There's so many things to discuss when it comes to the foreign affairs that are happening and sometimes miss the headlines here in this country. But when you look at those explosions in Gaza, how concerned are you about the conflict there now?
We have it's like fires breaking out all around the world. I'm concerned about potential conflicts in Taiwan, and then there's a real a conflict going on in Gaza. I think that the one in Gaza can be contained. Parties are talking, and Israel has responded forcibly to attacks on its civilians. I think I don't know what to say about that one. It's of a different level of magnitude, really, than the kind of issue of a potential dirty bomb that we first started talking about in this interview about the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant. I don't mean to downplay the seriousness of it, but it is of a different level of magnitude.
Very quickly, then, you said, as you said, there are problems all over, and you're worried about Taiwan. Is that the top of your priorities list at the moment in terms of where your attention is?
I guess yes, because there we have the potential for two superpowers engaging in a shooting war. In Ukraine, you have one superpower engaged, and the others, United States and United Kingdom and NATO, being very careful not to fire into Russia proper, or to allow their weapons to be fired into Russia proper. But in the Taiwan scenario, you could very easily have mainland China overreaching and the United States coming to Taiwan's defense. It's not happening now, but it has been a very tense situation.
Mark Fitzpatrick, lots, of course, to discuss, but thank you so much for joining us on Times Radio this evening. Thank you.